Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? I hope you're all well. Now, before we kick off with this webinar session, if anybody's having any sort of technical challenges in viewing this session or hearing this session at all, feel free just to kind of hit the refresh button on your web browser page. That is if you are tuning in via your desktop computer or your laptop. If you are tuning in on a mobile device, feel free to come out of the YouTube app that you're in right now and then click back on the link that you received for this webinar session. And hopefully everything will open up correctly for you then afterwards as well. One thing to let you know of is throughout the course of this this webinar session, you can turn on live captioning. So if you hover over onto this YouTube video, there is live captioning available. You'll see that the captioning icon is the letters CC inside of a small box. So you can click on the icon, toggle it on, and click it again to turn it off there as well. Feel free to also grab yourself a pen and paper just so you can kind of jot down some notes as we progress throughout the course of this session. Okay, I hope everyone's set. So welcome to this Google Digital Garage webinar session all about social media strategy. My name is Rakesh and I'm going to be your presenter taking through the course of this session, which is going to last for approximately 60 minutes. So I'll kick off first with a little bit about me. So I'm a trainer for Google's digital skills program, Google Digital Garage. As well as that, I'm also a digital marketer. So I work with businesses to help them to create and to also grow their online presence in order to attract more customers and clients to their product or service offering, respectively. Now, a large part of kind of promotion and kind of marketing generally these days for businesses, and especially businesses that are looking to kind of be in the online space, is being in an area where there's a lot of attention. And that kind of space where there's a lot of attention these days is social media platforms. That is kind of the space that is that kind of generally garners a lot of attention these days, and that's what we're going to be kind of looking at when we talk about kind of not just social media, but kind of developing a social media strategy to help you to tackle that particular medium and kind of format as its own kind of entity, and using that as part of your wider maybe marketing and wider digital marketing strategy that you may have for your business or organization going forward. So that's just a little bit about me. Now, I'd also like to introduce to you at this stage my colleague and fellow Google Digital Garage trainer, and that is Rashane. Now, Rashane is going to be our chat moderator today. So you might have noticed here on YouTube that there is a live chat box available, which should be located somewhere on the right-hand side of your screen. That is your space over the course of the next hour to ask questions and to maybe answer questions and kind of comments that you might see on screen throughout the course of this session as well. So feel free to get involved. I can already see that Rashane's been kind of dropping a quick hello in there, so feel free to kind of get involved. I know some of you have also been dropping you in your hellos. So we've got Brooch Nee, who's tuning in. We've got Long Ranger, we've got Marie, we've got Angie, we've also got Catherine, and we've also got Carlos tuning in from Venezuela as well. So welcome to you all. I hope that you find this webinar session useful, as well as Vaibhav tuning in from India. So this session that we're running today on social media strategy is one of many webinars that we actually run as part of a wider Google Digital Garage webinar offering. So if you have a look down below me where I'm pointing, you'll see that there is a link contained in one of those paragraphs. And that link is for the Google Digital Garage website, which some of you might already be familiar with in terms of signing up for this webinar session. So if you check out the Google Digital Garage, check out the Google Digital Garage website and have a look at the live training tab, you'll see a list of other webinar sessions on a variety of other digital marketing related topics that you are able to sign up for. And you can sign up for these training sessions and attend them at no charge, just like this session is available for you to attend at no charge as well. Now, another fantastic resource you'll find on the Google Digital Garage website is the online courses section. Now, when you click onto that tab, you'll see a list of lots of different courses that you can complete in your own time and at your own pace, and at no charge as well. And these online courses, a lot of the times, they do tend to supplement the learning that you do tend to do on these types of webinar sessions as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand at times. Now, you will find that the first online course on that page will be a course called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course. Now, this is a course that gives you that kind of holistic overview as to how businesses promote their products or services on the internet and online in general. So it gives you that kind of overview, even if you don't kind of plan to work within kind of marketing and promotion and actually the person who's going to be doing a lot of this kind of stuff, even kind of creating a social media presence, but it will give you that kind of overview. And the beauty of this course as well is that it has an added bonus in that upon completion of the Fundamental of Digital Marketing course, you will actually receive a certificate from Google at no charge, recognizing that you've completed this course as well. So definitely check out all the resources on the Google Digital Garage website when you do get a moment. But let's have a look at what we're covering in this training session, which is all about social media strategy. So the way that we're going to be breaking down this session is we're first of all going to be understanding how social media can help our businesses to grow. So it's very important to kind of go through this step, even though I'm sure many of us out there are very aware as to kind of the impact and the positive impact that having a strong social media presence can have in terms of an impact on our business's growth. But it's important just to kind of walk through these steps, because sometimes, especially if we're not sure about what type of content to create or how much time we should dedicate to creating content for our social media platforms that we have a profile set up on, we can always use this kind of filter process, as I like to kind of call it, whereby you are able just to check in and think, well, do you know what? If I do actually spend a decent amount of time and produce quality content for social media, that is something which is going to be beneficial in order to help my business to grow, because I'm aware of all these factors when it comes to the power that social media can have for my business. So we're going to be looking at that first. Once we've done that, what we're then going to be revealing is what we identified to be kind of a very useful kind of structure and a framework in terms of building a social media strategy. And this structure and framework is something that you can jot down, and you can go ahead once we've concluded this session, actually apply this to your own business going forward. So we're going to be revealing kind of what we identify in terms of the 5 steps that make up a social media strategy. And as I mentioned, you can kind of look to apply this to your own business going forward as well, with the structure and framework in place there. And then we'll round off this session looking at kind of some tips and tools and best practices when it comes to kind of creating content for social media and kind of getting more attention, getting more engagement, and hopefully leading people to take a particular action that you want to kind of lead them down to. So whether that be making a purchase of a product on your website, whether that be it could even be just signing up to a newsletter, especially if you are a new business and kind of looking to kind of feed more information out there to potential customers. It could be that you're looking to get more people inquiring about a service that you provide going forward as well. So before we actually get into the first part of this webinar session, I want to draw your attention to this fantastic resource that you can see here on screen. And you can see here with the title, it says free one-to-one mentoring available from Google. So this is a really fantastic resource for those of you who are or those of you who work for a small business or charity based in the UK. So that is the only requirement in order to use this resource, is that you need to be working for a small business or charity based in the UK. And if that is the case for you, then you are able to check out Google Mentoring. The link's on screen here, but I'm sure that Rashane will also drop a link to this in the live chat for you as well. This is your opportunity to have that more tailored discussion with a mentor, because a lot of the times, especially when you are maybe setting up and starting a business, you are maybe the one focal point, you are the one person that has to make all these decisions. And sometimes it's just nice to have a soundboard, just run some ideas past somebody else, and then they might be able to kind of add to it perhaps as well. So it's definitely a fantastic resource to check out. You can kind of have a discussion with that mentor for the time limit that you get is up to 1 hour. And in that kind of 1 hour limit for your mentoring session, you can talk about various kind of areas of your kind of your online presence and digital skills support that you might need, whether it be to do with elements of your website, whether it be elements of your social media or your social media strategy that you want to discuss in further detail as well. You can do that in the mentoring session. So definitely check this out if this is applicable to you. Okay, let's actually look at how social media can help a business to grow. And I wanted to kick off with some statistics. You can see here with the statement, it says, your customers live on social media. And that's backed up by the figures that you can see here on screen. So in the UK, which is where I'm based, you can see that there's 44 million active social media users. And these kind of figures are as accurate up till 2018. We're now in 2023. So that figure might have perhaps increased as more and more people are starting to kind of have like a presence on at least one social media platform as well. So, but just by kind of looking at that figure there, 44 million active social medias in the UK, that actually accounts for well over 80% of the UK's population. So there's a lot of attention on social media. So from a business perspective, it's important just to kind of think, well, okay, there's a lot of attention here. Maybe we can use this to our advantage in terms of let's get our product or let's get our service offering into social media platforms, so that when people are visiting these platforms, they will be hopefully be like they'll be able to kind of look at our product or service offering and kind of become more aware of it as well. And that might lead to somebody buying from you eventually as well. You can also see that the amount of time spent on social media is quite significant. You can see that the average daily use of social media on any device is just shy of 2 hours. Now, you might want to check this on your own smartphone if you wish to do so. Especially if you think, oh, I might spend a lot of time on social media myself. So you can actually check in kind of your settings and actually find out what is your average social media app usage across kind of all the social media apps, I guess, on a daily basis. And you might be very similar to this. You might be a little bit less. You might be a little bit more. I know, but I'm definitely kind of a little bit more in terms of kind of the work that I do. But you can actually have a check. And the reason why I wanted to kind of put this figure on screen was that because if the average kind of user is spending just shy of 2 hours on social media, then there might be people who are kind of above the average and some are maybe slightly below the average, but that's a lot of time that's being spent on these platforms. So again, it's kind of circling back to the fact that, well, if a lot of people are spending time on these platforms, great, we can get our information out in front of them, hopefully, as well. Now, a big kind of driving force in terms of how social media can help out a business to grow is the bottom line. It can help us to generate more sales, which is very important to note. And that's kind of backed by the fact that we can reach new audiences. So if you are somebody who is based in I think who mentioned it earlier on, just kind of picking here, we've got Mesa tuning in from Portugal, right? Just kind of pick somebody from the chat there. So Mesa tuning in from Portugal. So if you are based in Portugal, let's say you are based, I don't know whereabouts in Portugal that you're based, maybe you're based in Lisbon. But let's say that you want to be found in other parts of Portugal, or you are somebody who provides your service offering. Let's say you have got a service-based business. Let's say you provide your service offering, but you provide it globally because it's all done kind of virtually, perhaps as well. So having social media is a great outlet for that because you're able to kind of reach people maybe in other parts of the world, maybe in places like Australia or even in the UK, which you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do just by being based where you are based, kind of more locally there as well. You can also see that you can create new opportunities by having a social media presence. So just by merely having a profile on a certain social media platform, you're kind of putting yourself in the shop window. Now, in terms of actually new opportunities coming and flowing to you, you can usually accelerate that process of getting more opportunities coming towards you by creating content, by actually kind of feeding your social media presence going forward as well. But just by merely having a profile set up, you're kind of setting your stall out, albeit online, and saying, hi, I'm here. Look at me. This is me as a business, right? As well. You can also target specific types of customers with social media. So once you kind of know who is going to be more attracted to my business offering, you are actually able to kind of be more specific with how you promote your content. That could be either paid through kind of paid advertising, or it could just be kind of you putting out free posts. But you are using selected words, you're looking at using selected images, maybe you're posting at certain times of the day going forward as well. And you can also build relationships and networks as well. So you can look to kind of connect and kind of start to build a little bit of kind of a little bit of a network for your own organization going forward, just by again having that kind of initial presence on social media as well. Now you can also add value to your brand as well, which is very important to do. And when it comes to kind of adding value, something that comes from value is adding value to your brand lends itself as well to increasing credibility in your brand as well. And the ways in which we can do that on social media is that we can raise customer service levels. So if somebody has a query about a particular product that you sell, if you didn't necessarily have a social media presence at all, they would have to send an email to maybe your generic customer services email address, and then they'd probably get an auto reply back saying, "Oh, we'll reply to you within 3 business days." And then when that response comes back, it might not be satisfactory for them, and then they have to send another message. You end up kind of playing what I like to call kind of email tennis, and it's not necessarily providing the best customer service level. And that by that point, that potential customer, might have kind of jumped off the fence and actually thought, no, I don't want to buy this product from you because it's just caused me a lot of just kind of hassle, and it's just taking me time to find an answer to maybe a simple question that I had perhaps as well. And that's where social media can come into play. So a lot of the times with a lot of organizations and companies these days, you're actually able just to kind of send them a direct message on Instagram or Twitter, for example. And a lot of the times they will be able to kind of reply in a more timely manner and hopefully resolve that question or query that you might have, and maybe turn that potential customer into a paying customer going forward as well. You can also start a two-way dialogue, a two-way conversation, and we'll look at an example of that a little bit later on as well. We can also showcase a new side to our business. So certain platforms kind of lend themselves to be more kind of professional, a bit more kind of corporate, such as the likes of kind of LinkedIn. But other platforms like Instagram and Facebook, you can showcase a new side to your business. Maybe highlight some of the individuals who work within your organization and what they enjoy, and just kind of really kind of showcase that your organization in a different light there as well. And you can also build out your own community. And what I mean by community, these are kind of a community of people who like you, like your product, like your service offering. And these are the people that kind of what I like to call are like your super fans. They'll tell their friends, they'll tell their family, they'll share your posts to their network, their group on social media as well. And you start to kind of build a following of people who really enjoy hearing from you and hearing a bit more about what you do in general as well. Now, naturally, by having a social media presence, we can also improve our marketing efforts. So we can do that by being more being more visible on searches as well. So right now, if you've got like a secondary device at hand, and you were maybe to search your favorite fashion brand or sportswear brand out there. So if I was to kind of search, let's say, a brand out there such as the likes of Adidas, and I type that in onto Google, the chances are I'd probably see a link to the Adidas UK website. But as well as that, I might see links to Adidas's Instagram page, might see a link to their Twitter page, maybe to their Facebook business page that they might have as well, maybe to their YouTube channel as well. So we were just kind of increasing visibility just by having social media presences there as well. We can also attract more people to our website. So by promoting through social media, it's kind of adding that extra kind of layer whereby somebody who's interested in a product that you've been maybe talking about in a post, then you can add a link in there. And if they click on that link, they can then go to your website and maybe buy from you perhaps as well. You can also gain valuable customer insights, something that I'll speak about later on as well. And the beauty of social media in general is that we can typically keep an eye on our competitors. So if you kind of think about a lot of businesses, if not all businesses, I guess, on social media, they'll typically have an open and a public profile because they want to make sure that they have as much visibility as possible. And if people want to find out a little bit more about them, they can without having to kind of request to follow them and kind of then look into their private account. Because they want to kind of just be kind of loud and proud and out there and be like, yes, come and have a look at what we sell, for example, as well. But by keeping an eye on our competitors, it can give us food for thought to think, this organization are doing rather well by having a Facebook business page and keeping that very much updated. That might give us scope because we are in the same industry for us to actually set up our own Facebook business page because we as a business have our own identity, we have our own values. So we're not going to be posting the same type of content, but it can give us food for thought to actually think, well, okay, a lot of the same audiences that we are looking to target are spending time on Facebook. Great, let's look to kind of perhaps set up a page on there going forward as well. So there's just kind of a few considerations there in terms of how social media can help a business to grow. Now, there are some considerations, some questions that we want to kind of ask ourselves at this kind of early stage before we actually go into the social media strategy itself. One of them is, are posts on social media driving people to my website? So that particular question can actually be answered directly by one of the tools that I will mention a little bit later on. Who are my most influential followers? Now, this is something which will take a little bit of kind of a little bit of homework on your end to find out who is in your community already and what sort of influence they have in terms of, do they have their own following of people who listen to their opinions perhaps as well. So you might have heard of that phrase, influencer or social media influencer. That's what it kind of typically alludes to as well. So if you're able to create some level of kind of dialogue between yourself and somebody who is an influential follower, that might be rather conducive to your business, because if they are happy to do so, they can share some of your content with their followers. And if they're kind of vouching for that as well, that's something which can be fruitful for you in terms of kind of the bottom line when it comes to sales as well. Now, the questions that you can see on the other side of the screen here, which say, what kind of updates should I post and when's the best time to engage your audience? These are two questions which do get asked a lot, especially in the social media space. Because everybody at times are looking for the magic formula. They're thinking, all right, tell me, Rakesh, exactly what time should I be posting every single day on every single platform? What's the best time in order for me to get so much engagement, get so many likes, get so many comments, get so many shares? So there's not kind of a real answer because there's a lot of variables that come into play. And the best kind of mindset I like to look at both of these questions is to think of kind of creating content and putting out content in a manner of kind of trial and error. See what works. If something doesn't work, or you're posting at a certain time but you're not getting as much interaction and engagement, okay, let's try another time. But a lot of the times when people are looking for kind of the answer, which for me doesn't really exist, because it very much depends on your industry, very much depends on who you're looking to kind of target as well. It's if you kind of just kind of think, oh, I need to stick to a solid time, or I need to stick to a certain type of post, then that might kind of put you off into not posting at all. And that's where we kind of are then playing catch up with maybe our competitors as well, who are actually taking risks and actually taking chances and putting content out there in general as well. Now, before we actually go into the social media strategy itself, just a few final things just to remember when it comes to social media, especially from a business perspective. One of them is that attention spans are rather short. Now, this is something that you might have caught yourself doing, perhaps when you're kind of scrolling through your news feeds, even on your posts, even on your personal social media profiles, is that our attention spans are generally short these days. So it has been estimated that the average human attention span is roughly about 8 seconds. Now, that's not a long period of time, considering that the average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So we're not doing too great. However, when it comes to our attention spans, when it comes to social media specifically, that average attention span for humans actually drops to closer to 3 seconds. So that's very important to know. When we are creating content, we want to grab somebody's attention as quickly as possible. There's a lot of competition out there. So with social media, I'm sure many of you are aware, it can be a wall of noise. If you were to post something right now onto your business page, the chances are by the end of this webinar session, you might have to scroll a few times to actually find that post again, because other people are posting as well. So we don't want to kind of get lost in the noise. So we want to have a level of consistency in posting on a regular basis. It's not always free, and I'll speak about that kind of towards the end of the social media strategy. That's where we kind of briefly touch upon kind of paid advertising as an option. And once it's public, it's public. That's something very important to note. So if you were to kind of send out a tweet, if you were to post something on LinkedIn, if you were to put something out onto Instagram, and you notice that there's a spelling error or there's a grammatical mistake that you've made, yes, you can typically on most platforms can edit. You can sort of edit that. You can pretty much edit. You can pretty much kind of edit that post. However, the risk that you do run is you might post something out and then notice that you made a spelling error about 5 minutes later. However, in that period of time, somebody might have actually come onto your post, had a look at it. They looked at it and they thought, they made a couple of spelling errors here. It's not great. It's not really a great look on this organization. I was actually thinking about buying their product. And then they just thought, maybe I'm not going to buy from them. And that's kind of a variable that you wouldn't know of. So what I definitely recommend with that is make sure that you are kind of checking spelling, checking grammar, maybe get somebody else to look over your post before you hit that submit button perhaps as well. So that's just kind of a few things to remember when it comes to social media, when it comes to building up a business. Okay, let's have a quick check-in with any sort of questions from you all. I can't see any questions at this stage, but I can see that the chat is nice and busy at the moment. So let's have a look. Oh, there is a question here from Marie who's asked, does CTAs belong to social media strategy? Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned about CTAs. So CTA is an abbreviation for call to action. And that does definitely it does kind of belong to kind of social media in general. Like we might not kind of specifically isolate it in this strategy that I'm about to reveal to you, but it's definitely an important factor. And that actually flows a little bit more into content creation, and we run a kind of a more of a social media content creation style webinar session called Writing for Social Media. That's the name of the webinar that we run, Writing for Social Media. So feel free to kind of book yourself onto that particular session if you wish to do so, where we kind of dive a little bit deeper into that as well. But we'll kind of briefly touch upon these call to actions when we come on to strategy there as well. So with that in mind, let's actually have a look at the social media strategy and what we identified to be the 5 steps to creating a social media strategy. So feel free to kind of jot down this 5-step kind of framework or structure. And this is something that you could look to, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this session, look to apply it to your own business as well. So we've got audience, we've got goals, we've got picking which platforms to have a presence on, picking tone of voice, and defining what is success to you. Something which is very individualistic there as well. So let's actually kick off with step 1, which is all about audience. And it's very important that we're starting off with step 1 being our audience. Now, you can change that word audience if you wish to say consumers, to say customers. You can change it however you wish to. And in terms of our audience, what we want to do is we essentially want to answer these questions that you can see, which are the who, what's, and whens and whys. So who are they? What are they into? Who or what influences them? When are they usually online? So what times of the day or evenings are they online? And which social media platforms do they use? And do they use the most compared to some of the other platforms perhaps that they might have a presence on as well? So that's a lot of questions there. Well, how do we actually source the answers? Well, one of the best places to actually find the answers to these questions is to go straight to the source and actually speak to these people directly to actually understand what their needs are, understand what their interests are as well. That's why you do typically see a lot of organizations typically kind of run things like their market research. They run them through things like focus groups, where they'll get kind of a pool of individuals who are most likely to be interested in a product or service offering, and then they'll kind of scratch beneath the surface and ask them more probing questions to help them to kind of build a bit more of a picture in terms of what resonates with them and what would kind of attract them to a particular product or attract them to a particular service as well. Now, if we're looking to kind of get a bit more of a larger sample size rather than getting people in things like focus groups and coming in to a venue and actually asking them questions in person, then you can actually do that kind of in a virtual sense through building surveys. And there's a lot of survey tools, such as the likes of SurveyMonkey. You've got Google Forms as well. You can actually where you can actually create some of these surveys, and then you can just kind of email them out to individuals who want those emails because it works through kind of permissions. So if they do want to hear from you with the survey, you can send that out to them. They can reply, and then you will be able to kind of collate all of those responses and find out more information, find answers to those kind of who, what, why questions that we looked at there as well. So that's kind of one space and one place to actually find some of these answers. Now, another place to find some of these answers is through analytical and insight tools. So you've got some screenshots here. The one in the middle is a screenshot of Facebook. So with Facebook, you've got Facebook Insights, where you can actually have a look at kind of these graphs. You've also got on the right hand side, you've got Twitter Analytics, which will show you a lot of useful information, even things like percentage of kind of people replying to a tweet or retweeting or favoriting a tweet perhaps as well. And these tools are actually built directly into those social media platforms, and you can use them at no charge. So long as you are on kind of a business page, you are able to access these kind of insight or analytical segments and sessions of that particular platform through Instagram or through Twitter or through YouTube, and kind of check out the analytics, kind of the behind the scenes, what's actually working, and make kind of calculated decisions off the back of some of the results that you see going forward as well. Now, you can also see on the left hand side that there's kind of a bar graph and a pie chart, and that kind of just illustrates another analytical tool which some of you might already be using, and it's a tool called Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is a really fantastic tool which essentially allows you to track every click that happens on your business website, which is very, very useful. And also from a social media perspective, you can actually find out how people are coming to your website. So which social media platforms are they coming to you from, which is very, very useful to understand. And that kind of answers one of the questions that we looked at earlier on in terms of which social media platform is driving the most people to my website. Now, we actually run a whole 1 hour webinar session, which is called Get Started with Analytics, where we actually touch briefly upon some of the social media insight and analytical tools out there, but also deep dive a little bit more about understanding how Google Analytics as a platform works, how some of the reporting is done, and what we can get out of the reports. Because it's all good and well looking at kind of bar charts and pie charts and line graphs, but we want to make decisions off the back of all of these, because we want to constantly be in that kind of that mindset of wanting to improve the quality of our content and get more of the people who are interested in our business offering to us going forward as well. So that's kind of step one here, is talking about our audience. Step two of our social media strategy is to define our goals. So when it comes to social media, from a personal perspective, if we have a social media profile, our own kind of personal profile on certain platforms out there, it's generally, we don't really have a goal in mind. It's maybe just to keep in touch with friends and family, maybe send them funny memes and gifts and those kind of things. However, from a business perspective, we want to look at it as to it being a means to an end. It's there to serve a specific purpose, and we want to identify that purpose. We want to identify that goal. So you can see some of the goal like examples that you can see here on screen. Like So do you want to give better customer service by being open in terms of people? If people got queries, they can actually reach out to you through your social media channels. Are you looking to grow brand awareness? So let's say that you are a brand new fitness clothing company and you want to be as well known as Nike or Adidas, for example. Do you want to generate just more sales? You've kind of got your name established, but you want to get more people coming through to your website. And that's why your social media presence is set up. Do you want to get more people on your website in general? Do you want to connect with influencers perhaps as well, so that your product or service offering is more visible to more people as well? So we really want to kind of identify what is our social media goal. And I say goal singular rather than plural, because if we have all of these as our goals, it makes it very tricky to actually monitor. So what we want to do is just break this down and select one social media goal. And it's all good and well if we have one social media goal, we follow that through, and we know that we're on the path to success with that goal, then that's great, because we can always circle back to this step 2 of our strategy and create another, have another goal and run that concurrently, because the first goal that we set up is already on the right path to success, which is great. So let's start off with one goal here. And with our one goal, we want to kind of follow this process through, which is to just once we've discovered what our goal is, what we want to achieve out of social media, we want to define and kind of work out any sort of barriers or kind of hurdles that's kind of stopping us from getting to kind of the finish line and achieving that particular goal. We want to then kind of write down some action steps that can help us to overcome those barriers and challenges and hurdles, essentially. And then we can then kind of run full steam ahead. I'm just kind of using an analogy of kind of running the 110 meter hurdles, for example, here, as how we can kind of make that make that dash to the finish line and actually achieve our social media goal as well. So that's kind of step 2. We want to have that kind of focal point of a social media goal in mind there. Now, step 3 is to choose which social media platform do we want to have a presence on. So when it comes to answering this question, which social media channels do I need to have a presence on, we want to first of all assess, is our business, is it more business kind of corporate focus, is it more lifestyle focus? That will typically dictate which social media platforms that we have presence on. But also, this is a great point as well to have a look at our competitors within the same industry and actually find out, well, where are they getting more kind of fruitful interactions and engagements on as well. So that might kind of come into our thinking as well. You can see here that start with one and then test it, try another. So rather than kind of just think, oh, I've got to have a presence on all of these social media platforms that exist out there, you want to kind of start smaller. Just start with one and then expand out that way if you wish to do so, rather than be like coming in that way. Because if you start off that way and you're on all of the social media platforms, you're going to end up spreading yourself thin. And just kind of picking up on a question from Hugono, who asked, do I need to be posting on all social media websites? And the answer to that is no. You want to be posting on social media on social media platforms which or where you have identified that your ideal type of customer or client, however you wish to refer to them as, where they are spending the most amount of time and where you are spending the most amount of time, because you want to sync both of them up and be posting a lot quite frequently on those particular platforms. And that's where you want to be focusing your efforts, as opposed to other social media platforms where they might not even have a presence on, or they have a very limited presence on, and there's no need to kind of be posting a lot on there, because other platforms are where they are spending the bulk and majority of their time on as well. But you can also see that different social media channels and platforms essentially need different strategies. So let's actually briefly touch upon some of the social media channels and platforms essentially that exist out there. So one of them is Twitter. So you can see Twitter, it's a fantastic kind of public relations tool. I like to kind of look at Twitter as like a conversational platform more so than anything else. So it's probably, for me, it's less about firing out tweets that say, buy from us, here's our product, buy from us, buy from us, buy from us. It's less about that in terms of the sell, but it's more about maybe sprinkling some of that like selling in between you demonstrating your knowledge, you getting involved in other people's conversations, especially if you as a business are able to highlight and demonstrate your knowledge and expertise to others, because that's a really surefire way of getting people more interested in what you have then got to say when you start promoting and talking about topics which are related to your industry as well. Now, something that I touched upon earlier on in this session was creating two-way conversation. And an example of a two-way conversation is what you can see here on screen with this screenshot, which is from the Dollar Shave Club, who are running a Twitter poll. So they are asking their customers, or people generally who follow the Dollar Shave Club, how often do they change their Dollar Shave Club razor blades? And they're given some options. So what that does for Dollar Shave Club by running this Twitter poll is that it, for them, they are getting feedback directly from either their customers or people who are interested in their product offering. But also from a customer's perspective, that customer is able to kind of feel, that's quite nice. This company is actually asking me for my opinion. So they actually feel valued as well. And that creates a natural kind of building of kind of trust. And that's something that can really bring a customer and a business together closer as well, just by kind of a business being a bit more open and asking them, what would you like? Because a lot of the times with businesses, they kind of just maybe brainstorm something in a boardroom somewhere, and then they create it, and then the customers will then decide whether that's good or not. But if they actually ask customers as they are creating something new, through something like polls, that is a great way of actually kind of getting them involved, using a little bit of dialogue there as well. But that's kind of Twitter in kind of a little bit of a brief nutshell. You can see some other important kind of information. So in terms of kind of searchability through Twitter and across pretty much vast majority of social media platforms, the currency essentially for searching is typically hashtags. So we want to use useful hashtags across on social media platforms. So that's Twitter. You've also got Facebook. So Facebook is a platform that's been around for a long period of time. You can see here you can help customers to find you and also see a little bit more about what your business is about. And probably you're able to kind of showcase a little bit more in terms of what your business is about in a less kind of professional or corporate format that you might have on something like your website or something like your LinkedIn company page. So it's a bit more of a kind of a relaxed environment where you're able to still showcase and highlight the same sort of information, such as things like opening hours, contact details, but you are kind of taking a bit of a step back and it being a little bit more kind of casual viewing, as opposed to, oh, this is us in your face there as well. But you can also see that's a really useful kind of factor when it comes to creating content. Something that I touched upon with Marie's question earlier on is to include a call to action. So you got some examples here: shop now, contact, buy now. These are all call to action. So sometimes when we typically view content, especially online, we don't necessarily know what to do next. Even if we're really interested in something, in a product or an advert that we've seen, we're not really sure what to do next. And that's where having a call to action, a really good call to action, can be useful. So learn more, buy now. All of these are really kind of useful to prompt somebody to take an action that you want them to take. You can also see this with, I'll mention YouTube as another social media platform coming up shortly, but even with YouTube, some YouTubers that you do watch, typically when they end their YouTube video, they'll say something like, oh, if you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to hit subscribe down below, also hit the notification bell so that you don't miss when the next video is uploaded. So they mention that, and that is a verbal call to action as well. And from my experience working in the marketing sector, I found that this just works. It is something that does tend to work a lot because, as I mentioned, when we consume content, sometimes we're not really sure on what to do next, even if it is very obvious to just get in touch with someone or click a particular link. But just having that prompt at the right time can make the world of difference and can be the difference between somebody buying from you or somebody who just passes by on your content, even though that they were interested as well. So I hope that kind of sort of answers your kind of query, Marie. But as I mentioned, we kind of talk a little bit more about kind of calls to action in our Writing from Social Media webinar session as well. You've also got Instagram. That's another social media platform out there, very much kind of visual based as well. So photos and videos are very much kind of the order of the day, essentially. But you can post through either permanent posts, which kind of typically will appear in your kind of Instagram grid, as you can see here with this example of the screenshot for Letterfolk. Or you can actually post something via Instagram stories, which are temporary piece of content, which only stay on your profile for 24 hours, or unless you delete it anytime sooner as well. So I think it's very, very important to kind of note that. And with Instagram and with most platforms, you're able to kind of create a specific visual look and feel to these platforms in terms of, you can see with Letterfolk here in all of their Instagram grid photos, they've got a board with white lettering on there, which says different things in relation to whatever the photo is about. But that is a consistent theme running throughout all of their images, or especially the first 6 that we've just seen, that we can see here with the screenshot anyway as well. You can also see that on screen. It does say, you can use a photo caption to tell a story and get people interested. I think that's really, really useful because, especially because of that that kind of, I guess, age-old cliche sometimes, is that a picture can paint 1,000 words, but providing a very useful caption can make the world of difference in terms of getting people interested and getting them to take the next step, especially if you use a call to action at the right time as well. So that's kind of Instagram there as well. You've also got LinkedIn. So as I mentioned with LinkedIn, it's a bit more of a kind of a corporate kind of lends itself more to kind of business to business. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's nice as a company, as a business, to just have a presence on there, because if somebody is a consumer or a customer or client, they might still come and have a look. Just because they've got a LinkedIn profile, they can actually have a look and find a bit more information on your company page. So you can see with the screenshot, this is a screenshot of L'Oreal. Now with L'Oreal, they actually typically post up to 4 times a day on their company page. Now the crucial word is up to, but sometimes it can be up to actually 4 times a day. But the types of content they'll post will vary. And it's important just to kind of give a full rounded picture of your organization. So rather than just being like, oh, here's a new L'Oreal product that we brought out, they've also got posts such as these, such as, bring your pet to work kind of day as well. So this is a really kind of useful kind of medium to consider as well. And the reason why I'm going through some of these social media platforms, just to kind of highlight what they are and what they're all about, is not to say, oh, you need to create a presence on all of these. It's just for you to evaluate in line with step 1, in terms of once you know a bit more about your audience, your customers, your clients, you can align the 2 together and then start off with one platform and then work your way onto maybe others if you feel it is appropriate as well. And the final kind of social media platform, I just want to mention it, and there are other social media platforms out there, but the final one I just want to mention is YouTube. So YouTube is the most popular video sharing site. It is actually also the 2nd largest search engine in the world, behind Google. So it's a fantastic place to be discovered. However, it really does depend on whether your audience are spending time on YouTube. So it really kind of lends this kind of step lends itself. Step 3 actually lends itself very much to step 1, and it's all dictated by your audience and where they are spending time as well, and whether they do consume video content, which is typically going to be on YouTube there as well. So that's kind of step 3. Now let's actually have a look at step 4 here of our social media strategy, which is thinking about our social voice. So that kind of in thinking about our brand social voice includes a lot of these elements, such as brand guidelines. So what words will we and won't we use when we are creating social media posts? Think about our use of logos. What's the quality of our logos? So if we kind of stretch out our logo for a certain social media post, is it going to get all kind of pixelated and blurry? We don't really want that, because that is going to send kind of a signal to our potential customers that, oh, yeah, they haven't really got a sharp image, have they? And that can maybe portray you in kind of a light that you don't want to be seen in as an organization as well. Think about kind of do's and don'ts in terms of style of imagery as well. So are there going to be any images that you do take and kind of post on your social media? Are they going to be kind of more candid photos, a little bit like what you can see here on screen? Or are they going to be more kind of more kind of, I guess, scripted kind of photos. So certain people are standing in certain places just for a specific photo there as well. And also think about tone of voice. So think about how you actually come across in your posts, which actually lends itself to the personality of how you come across in your social media posting. So you can come across in many different ways, whether you come across friendly, provocative, fun, serious, formal, casual. And just to kind of highlight this with an example, these are kind of some posters here from an organization called This Girl Can, which is a campaign that was set up by Sport England and the National Lottery in the UK to encourage more women to get involved in playing sport. And the reason why we've got these three posters here on screen is because these are the ones that actually garnered the most engagement through social media. And it's very simple because all you've got is an image and you've got a little bit of text overlaid on there. And that's something which was still thought-provoking and actually gauged essentially a reaction, an engagement, an interaction from people who actually viewed that piece of content as well. And there's a specific tone in there as well, which we want to make sure that we always have. We have a specific tone of voice, a specific personality, whether it be friendly, whether it be formal, whether it be casual, whatever we are kind of having for our social media posts. We want to make sure that we really lean into that tone of voice there as well. Now, the fifth and final step of our social media strategy is to define success. So what is success for us? This actually lends itself to step 2 when it came to kind of finding and sourcing what is our social media goal, right? So is it a growth in sales? Can we measure growth in sales? Can we check, how much is our bottom line improving? Are we getting more profit? Is it a growth in traffic? So are more people visiting our website? We can use tools such as the likes of Google Analytics that can help us answer that questions like that. Are we seeing an improvement in customer service levels? We might be getting more reviews coming through. We might be increasing our brand awareness. So we might be getting more mentions across social media because we're a new business on the block in a very saturated industry, but we are getting more people talking about us, which is great. Is that a barometer of success for you as well? So it's important to consider this factor as well. Now, another thing to kind of consider, even though we're at the kind of the end and the last step of the social media strategy, is to consider paying. Now, this is where social media advertising comes into play. Now, with advertising, whenever you say the word advertising, that does involve money. That does involve having a budget at hand so that you can use it and kind of run adverts using that budget there as well. So that's something to evaluate. You might not be in a position to use an advert or get together an advertising budget to test out some adverts, but you might have been trying some out perhaps as well. But the beauty of kind of running adverts is that right now you can actually just post something at no charge directly onto your business pages, your social media profiles right now, and it doesn't cost you a penny. However, the caveat to that is in terms of your reach, in terms of how many people actually see that post, it will only be a proportion and a selection of the people that follow you who will actually be able to see that content. And that's where paid social media advertising comes into play, where you're able to kind of open up those gates and actually get your product offering or your service offering into the news feeds of people who don't follow you, don't even know about your product, and don't even know that they're going to be buying from you yet until they're being made aware of it. And then they think, oh, it's a fantastic product. I might buy this and go to the website perhaps as well. However, we are going to be paying for that privilege essentially for getting into the news feeds. So it's definitely something to consider. And we actually dive a little bit more deeper into this in a webinar session that we run, which is called Get Started with Digital Advertising. So if you want to sign up for that Google Digital Garage webinar session, be sure to check out when the next session is running on the topic of Get Started with Digital Advertising as well. So that's essentially the 5-step process. So feel free to use this framework and structure and apply this to your own business going forward to create your own social media strategy, or maybe to refine your own social media strategy perhaps as well. I think it's important to kind of evaluate through those means there as well. So with that in mind, let's have a quick check-in with any questions that might have been coming in. I can see that Rashane has been busy kind of typing away and answering questions in the live chat, which is really fantastic. So thank you very much, Rashane, for answering the questions in the chat. If there are any kind of final questions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat as we come towards the third and final section of this webinar session, which is all about tools and best practices. Now, when it comes to best practices, we've got to talk content. So what sort of content should we be sharing? You can see just an example of some types of content that you can share. So announcement, non-promotional, product or brand related tips and tricks, job openings, things like kind of the operational side of kind of content as well. But the one thing I'd always mention with regards to posting content is, let's say, for example, you have a social media presence on 2 platforms, and you think, oh, yeah, they're the 2 platforms that my audience are spending the most time on. Great. What you don't necessarily want to be doing is you don't want to be posting the same piece of content on both of those platforms on the same day and even at the same time as well, because there's no incentive for that that potential customer to then go to maybe your other social media platform, because they're going to see duplicated content. And they might see the same thing if you've got like a blog set up on your website as well. So you want to maybe vary up your content. And that's where kind of creating a bit of a content calendar can come into play, where, oh, let me talk about kind of a new product on Instagram, for example, and then I'm doing a YouTube video talking about some product tips on an existing product that we have, and I'm posting that today as well. But they're different platforms, there's different types of content, and then I can switch it up. So maybe the next day I can put the product tips and kind of shorten down the video and put that on Instagram, and then kind of and then do the same thing when it comes to kind of new product announcements on YouTube as well. So you can look to kind of chop and change that as well. Now, in terms of the types of content that tends to work the best for eliciting interaction and engagement, the best type of content is basically creating experiences that are worth sharing. You can actually see that with examples. Somebody taking a photo here of a sweet treats box, which they might just post onto social media. So a few examples include such as the likes of Starbucks. So when it comes to kind of the Christmas period or start of December, usually Starbucks change the color of their famous white cups. They change that to the color red, because it becomes red cup season. And what do people tend to do? They'll maybe take a photo, they'll put it up on their Instagram story or put it onto the Twitter, like, oh, yeah, it's start of the festive period. And what that individual is doing by posting a tweet out or putting something on an Instagram story is they are actually marketing for Starbucks, which from a business point of view, that's the best type of marketing you can get, because other people who have actually physically purchased your product are vouching for you, which is a really great place to be. Even though you have your own marketing and promotion that you have going on, that's the best place to be. So that's something to consider there as well, is think about kind of creating experiences worth sharing. Even with brands such as the likes of Nutella, you can create custom labels with certain people's names on there, and you can gift them a jar. They can take photos and obviously share that alike as well. And that's something which, again, people are able to kind of do some marketing on your behalf as a business, essentially, as well. So just to round off this session, just want to share a couple of kind of tools that can be useful. So in terms of creating great graphics, there's a lot of kind of fantastic tools out there. One of those fantastic tools is Canva, spelled Canva, which is a fantastic graphic design tool that you can use in order to make your social media content kind of stand out and kind of look really kind of professional and very artistic and creative as well. It's very important as well to check your grammar. As I mentioned, once it's public, even though you've got the ability to edit, it's important that you don't really want to be relying upon the edit feature. So you can use tools such as like Grammarly to check your spelling and grammar before you hit the post button on any post. And then you can also use social media management tools such as likes of Hootsuite to maybe schedule posts in advance as well, especially if you are that one person that is doing everything for your business, including the marketing side and kind of posting on social media as well. So you've got all the knowledge. It's kind of now a case of putting things into action. So with that in mind, Let's have a quick check-in on questions. I can't see any. So if we kind of roll into our next steps, one of your next steps is to check out Google Mentoring. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, fantastic opportunity for you to have a 1 hour or up to 1 hour Google mentoring session virtually, so long as you work for a small business or charity in the UK. I'm sure that Roshane will kind of drop a link once again in the live chat for you for the Google mentoring if this applies and is useful for you as well. So I hope that you found this session useful. If you did, both myself and Roshane would appreciate a little bit of feedback to let us know what you enjoyed about this session. We've got the feedback form link on screen there. Be sure to also check out the link in the video description box below to the Google Digital Garage website. Sign up for other webinars, such as the ones that I kind of mentioned earlier on, such as writing for social media, such as get started with digital advertising, such as get started with analytics as well. Remember, they are available to attend at no charge. Remember to also check out the online courses section. Remember, it's the Fundamental of Digital Marketing course, which is the course that upon completion you'll actually receive an added bonus of receiving a certificate at no charge from Google, recognizing that you've completed that course as well. So apart from that, I want to say a massive thank you to Roshane, who I'm sure you'll agree has been a wonderful chat moderator, and thank you all for tuning in to this Google Digital Garage webinar session, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you. Bye.